If you are like most photographers and artists, at some point you have likely gone through kind of a confidence crisis, if you will. And I talked about this in my last video, where one of the questions I get asked a lot is, am I good enough to, volunteer at a shelter or take my hobby to a side gig or my side gig to full time? And my answer to that, my little two-step secret was, in order to gain photography confidence, you need to create and share, and then repeat. Create and share and then repeat. And at the end of that video, I gave you a promise of different projects or ideas that you can create things from. Because oftentimes what happens is we go, okay, well, I only have this many resources, or I don't have any models, or I only have my dog as a model, right? And you don't know kind of what to create, what to photograph, what to work on next, so you can get that confidence. And I've kind of broken this down into 3 segments. I have 20 ideas for you, by the way. Oh, and also Monique Renee here, photographer at Silver Paw Studio. And yes, these have been in 14 days and I'm feeling better about it now. And I've got 20 things for you to work on, to choose from. Don't do all of these, that'd be amazing, but that's a lot of work. I've got 20 ideas for you to work on your photography confidence. And what I've done is broken it up into 3 sections. Now, the first few ideas are going to be around the technical aspects of photography. And if you're just starting out, or if maybe you've got new equipment or you've changed photography systems, this might be a good place for you to start. My second group will be about creativity. If you feel like, okay, I pretty much know my equipment, what I want to do is work on more creative options that I can feel more confident in. And the third one is for those of you who are ready to go pro. And this is my number 1 piece of advice I give to anyone, because I do get emails, what they should work on and how do they know if they're ready to go pro. And so the very last tip is going to be for those of you who are ready to take that step and become more of a pro. So hang in for that if you would, and I've got it all typed up here for you. Okay, first things first is technical. So let's start with cameras. And for my cameras, I have 4 different ideas for you, but these really could be endless, because as you know, being on YouTube, there is all kinds of camera tutorials. You might have something specific that you want to learn about your current gear to get the most out of it, right? Because sometimes it's, should I update my equipment? But really, you really just need to figure out all the things that your equipment currently can do. Or maybe you have a new piece of equipment. And so here's some ideas for you for camera skills. Number 1, try full manual mode. Even this little Sony ZV-1 has a full manual mode. And that means manual shutter speed, manual aperture, a manual white balance, manual ISO, all of that. If you want to get real crazy, do manual focus. See what you can learn about the exposure triangle. So that is my first project that you could tackle. 2, and as a photographer, you're going to go, Monique, you're nuts. But trust me, video is the future. I do a lot of video work. Clearly, hi, we're on video now. Figure out your camera's video mode. Maybe it's just you find the red button and you record something, your dog playing, whatever it is. Just kind of dip your toe into video, especially if you think you know your photography pretty good, but it's time. It's time to start video. That's my second tip. A third has to do with your particular camera. Really figure out the menu system. As many of you know, I am on the Sony systems and their menus are notoriously confusing. Let's just say confusing. But what I have found helps a lot for me is to go to that star menu, custom menu, and anything that you're going to go to fast there, formatting, focus mode. Some of these cameras, you want the ND filter, things like that. So figure out your camera's menu options. This could be something really great to do on just like a rainy day. My fourth idea is, all the focus options. Oh my gosh, if you are a pet photographer or you photograph any kind of action, there are so many focus modes. And when I first get a camera, I look at what they have and what I could potentially use that mode for. There's single spot, there's zone, there's completely auto, there's manual. Really poke around and give yourself a project that you can work on fine-tuning all of the focus modes. And this seems like it's an ongoing process, but try to get those basics down, because then you'll have a lot more confidence when you're on the spot and a dog is running at you versus a dog is running in front of you versus a dog sitting still. What focus modes would you choose? Okay, so those are those 4 for cameras, and you can see where there's a lot more. Give yourself a project to learn something about your camera gear. Clearly, the next step is lighting. And I've got 3 ideas for you for gaining confidence in your lighting. Here's a really good one. Learn how to find the best light outside. So many of us pet photographers love photographing outside, but it can be a challenge to find where the good light is. Now, this will be figuring out where the light is as far as time of year. So the shorter days versus the longer days, the setting sun versus the rising sun, and exactly where that is at your favorite parks or the favorite locations that you go to, because obviously that changes throughout the year. Another project that you can work on for confidence is really learning your speed light. Now, if you have big strobes or some other kind of light, do that too. But I think speed lights have a ton of stuff built in that we really don't use that often. And like I use my speed light on manual most of the time and set it, but maybe I could try it on TTL. Maybe I could try a shutter, like a drag, any of these features that these little speed lights come with, bouncing it versus putting down umbrella versus straight on with a diffuser, on camera versus off camera. You could really go far with learning really how to use that little speed light. So that could give you a lot of confidence. Oh, and then this one's really easy. My next tip is to fashion a reflector. Whether you have the big pop-up like 5-in-1 reflector like I do, or you get a giant piece of foam core, or maybe you cover a board in tinfoil, figure out some kind of reflector and then play around with that. Even if you have to use a little doll or your own dog, play around with how that affects your speed light or your window light or your outdoor light. So reflectors are another awesome way to learn different lighting. Okay, so there's my 3 ways on how to gain confidence in your lighting skills. How about in your editing? Sometimes we sit and we go, oh man, I really wish I knew how to do this type of editing. Give yourself that project. So I've got 3 ideas here. Number 1 that all of us pet photographers need is, how do I replace a leash or get rid of a leash or a person in a photo? And I don't know if I have some videos on here specifically about that, but I'm going to do another dedicated video on here on the different techniques in Photoshop, not Lightroom as much, but Lightroom and Photoshop combo for removing leashes and people and other things that you don't want in your photos. This takes a lot of practice and a lot of skill and learning which tools you want to use. So being able to remove those leashes and people in a quick way is really going to help you with your confidence in editing. Another idea I have for you is play with exposure and color correction. If you go outside in the summer where there's green grass and you have a white dog and the grass reflects up onto their chin and makes it green, why is that happening and how can you fix that in the computer? And then the last one is editing workflow. So maybe you are clunky and you feel like you do things different every single time you come home with a bunch of photos. Figure out your workflow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe you can program in some presets like I've done into Lightroom. Maybe you could buy editing presets, things like that. Figure out kind of your workflow. In a couple of videos I did recently about my process at the cat rescue and the dog rescue, I dedicated a whole section in there on my editing And I talk about the workflow I go through. And what I do there is exactly what I do with my paying clients. So if workflow is something that always kind of bothers you in the back of your mind and you're just not that confident in it, definitely do this as one of your confidence boost activities. Okay, so those are all of my tech ideas for gaining confidence in your tech. So those are all really great. Obviously, they're all ongoing, but it's really a good idea to pick one and really go in on it. Let's move on to the next section, all about creativity. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, oh my gosh, 9. I have 9 ideas to increase your photography confidence by giving yourself these projects. This is fun. This is, obviously there's way more than 9 ideas, but here's 9 for you. Here's the first one, location scouting. Now we talked about finding the light on location, but here is something, probably a video I'll make sometime soon. How can you find a location no matter where you are? So give yourself a project to next time you're on your regular walk with your dog, say, if I had to photograph a client's dog within this block, where would I choose? How about this? If you're really strong and confident in your outdoor photography, but it's been on your mind for a while to learn studio photography, then, or vice versa, if you feel like I'm pretty good at studio photography, but oof, natural light photography or outdoor location photography stresses me out, flip it. Give yourself a challenge to do the opposite of what you're good at or what you think you're good at. The next one, the third one in the creative realm, is try a new location. Many of us are known for being the dogs on the beach photographer or the dogs in the deep woods photographer, or, you know, whatever it is. Change up your location. If you're the beach person, go to a field. If you're the field person, go to the trees. Challenge yourself to find locations in different settings. Let's see, number 4. Ooh, dogs versus cats. This one might be a little bit more difficult to pull off. But if you are primarily, let's say, a dog photographer and you have zero confidence in photographing cats, but that is something you'd really like to do, give yourself a challenge or a project to try it. Now, this could be your own cat, obviously. That's the first choice. It could be a cat at a rescue. It could be just a friend's cat or a family member. So if you're somewhere else and they have a kitty, try cat photography. Or if you're a dog photographer or a cat photographer primarily, and you're like, I don't understand dogs at all. I get cats, I don't get dogs. See what you can do to try dog photography if that's something you want to gain confidence in. Pretty cool, right? My 5th one here in the creative realm is pocket pets or exotics. Okay, so let's say you do a lot of dogs and cats. Maybe your local shelter has guinea pigs and bunnies and salamanders and ferrets. Next time you go volunteer there, ask if you can photograph those animals instead. What I'd really love to do next is some colorful birds right here in the studio. Oh my gosh, put up a black backdrop, get these brilliant color birds, or a snake, those snakes with all those cool colors on them. That would be an awesome challenge for me. I might choose that one actually. The next one is a theme. So a lot of us here, pet photographers, we do a lot of work for shelters, and sometimes they come to us with a theme, like a beach theme or a flower theme or a holiday theme, seasons, whatever it is. And if you've never tried that before, this would be a good time. Like if you don't feel confident at all in doing that kind of thing, just make up a theme. And that's what I do a lot. If the rescues say, hey, we've got something coming up, we don't really know how to let people know about it. How can we put together some marketing pieces for this? And so we'll all put our heads together. And that's kind of how we came up with the Spring Me photos. If you've seen my video for that, where we've put real flower crowns and collars on and photographed the dogs at a garden center. Wow. It's been as simple as a beach theme where we have an inflatable palm tree and then some beach towels. It could be that simple, but choose a theme that you can work on, not only is it like really fun, but you also will gain a ton of confidence in being able to do those kinds of sets. Oh, here's a good one. And a lot of people start these in January, but how about a 365 project? Some people do this, or a 52-week project where they're taking every single day or every week, they're taking a picture and they're chronicling it somewhere, either in a Facebook group or a blog or just maybe on their phone or computer. Those are big long-term projects, but people really like them, and it's fun to kind of look back and see your progress. So a 365 or a 52-week challenge would be fun too. Another one, I think this is number 8. Let's just say this is number 8, is I have heard of people doing a 1 photo a day challenge. What I mean by that is don't pick your favorite photo. Restrict yourself to 1 photo that you can take. That's it. I don't remember who this was that I saw. This was several years ago. And this person even restricted it further to their backyard. They only allowed themselves to take 1 photo a day. And my last one in this creative kind of intermediate section here on gaining confidence would be work on your Instagram grid. I know for my Instagram for Silver Paw Studio, I've done work on it and then I've let it go, and then I've been random and not been random. For a while though, I was doing these really cool 9-picture grids that all puzzled together, and it was really fun. It just was kind of time consuming, and I focused more here on YouTube. But figure out something like a theme you want to do on Instagram. It could be a color, it could be a type of dog, it could be a look to your grid that you want, like you want a quote and then a dog picture, and then a quote, and then a cat picture, and then a quote, like something like that. Think about kind of how you would like to display your work on your Instagram grid. Pretend it's this wall and you can have 9 squares. What would you do? So I think that helps with confidence, because part of what I talked about in the last video was sharing. So this would be the perfect way to take one of these other ideas and start on that and then share it on a grid for Instagram. Okay. Now, before I talk to you about this very last one that I'm saying is geared towards people who want to take this to a side gig or professional level, is if you're thinking about doing that, please consider joining the Pro Pet Photog email group and Facebook group. And links for both of those are down below. The Facebook group is a private group, so we can share things in there that our clients can't see, and our friends and family, and pictures and challenges, things that we have. And then the email tells you when these videos come out, and also will tell you some other things that are happening here at the studio that are really going to help you. So I just wanted to let you know that those are free resources for you in the description below. So be sure to take advantage of that. My number 20 project idea to build your confidence with photography is to pretend you have a client. Now, you could actually do this and do some kind of a model call, something like that, where you find a client that knows that you're doing this for experience and confidence, or you can ask a friend, or you can just use your own animals and pretend that the whole thing is an actual paid full photo session. Now, this is something that I've told many people to do, to try. If you're not quite sure your confidence is there with any of these other things, with your camera gear, your lighting, your workflow, your editing, your creativity, if you think you are, but you're not sure, if you give yourself this, you will find the holes really quickly. So this is what I'm talking about. Go all the way through. Now, when I did this, I actually did do this. And this was many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, with my BFF, Bree. Thanks, Bree. And I had just gotten Pro Select sales software, and it was time for me to photograph her anyway, because she was an awesome model for me. And I said, would you be willing to go through this whole process with me? And she said, of course. because she's my BFF. And so what we did is we went through the whole photo session. So we planned out what she could wear and where we were going to go, and if her husband was going to be in them too, things like that. And then we actually went and did a full photo session. So I chose locations and lighting and helped her with outfits. I did the photography as far, I thought this all through for this project. Do I want a tight, middle, or wide shot, like a close-up shot, that kind of thing? Do I want to include the background? Do I want to do horizontal or vertical? And then when I put them together, how do I pose them together? How do I pose her on her own? And my goal was to get an entire card full of images that I can edit and cull down to show her as if she was buying these in a regular session. This is before I photographed pets as much. So this was a portrait session, but the same thing can apply for pets. And so then what I did is I went home and I edited all these in one sitting like I would do for a paid session. And then I loaded them all into my sales program, and I had her come back over to my house and sit through my whole sales presentation. And then at the end, I asked her, okay, where can I improve on this? Where was I not clear? Where did I miss things? And some of that I could see myself as I went, like, oh no, I didn't get this particular pose. Or while we're on location, I really wish I knew how to get to this in my camera menu. Things like that. This exercise is invaluable, and I know that there's a way that you can make it happen, even if you have your spouse or your kids or your loved ones and your own pets go through this process with you and pretend that they're a client. Trust me, this will help with your confidence immensely, immensely. If you can, do this with several people. A lot of people do this with their model calls, where it's a client, but they're not paying yet. So I encourage you to go all the way through the process, through ordering as well. Pretend that they're also ordering, or maybe they really do order. Okay, that is my 20 ideas to create things and share them to increase your confidence in your photography. And you can get past those confidence crises. Confidence crises. I said that. Yeah, that's what I said. Oh my gosh. And there are so many more. If you have more ideas, type them in the comments below. I've already, just sitting here talking about these, I know that there's some I want to do. One of them is work with this new monitor for my camera. Oh, that's going to be so awesome. I also want to know all the things that are possible with the ZV-1, which I'm filming with right now. So the Sony ZV-1 has just tons of options in there that I haven't explored, and I'm probably even going to film those so you all can learn it too if you're interested in that camera. I'm gonna probably pick some more things off this list too. What are you gonna pick? Let me know. And you can also let me know in that Facebook group, right? And if you're on the email list, you have gotten this entire list, and I'll add it to next week's email. How about that? It'll also be in next week's email, so make sure you sign up, right? Okay, so that is it for my today, and as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATS's. Oh, that is so many. Yeah, so many. Oh, this is exciting. Oh boy.